Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out of this world story from rSpace. I, female 28, just learned that my fiancé, male 31, cheated on me with my best friend, female 27. Sorry for the long post in advance. I'm a mess. I created a second account in a hurry because my best friend and fiancé both follow me in my other account. Also, I am on my phone, so please pardon any formatting errors. Any names mentioned here are false, but the ages are accurate. Pretty much what it says in the title. I will start from the beginning. 4 years and a few months ago, my best friend, Andrea, female 27, and I moved to one of the biggest cities in the US together. Both of us had gotten jobs there, and though we were in the same industry, we were hired by different companies. We ended up sharing an apartment and life was great. One evening, she called from her office and asked me to meet her at a bar. Her entire department was going out for drinks. Both of us were not dating yet, so I headed out and had a good time with them. A few days later, a guy who was at the party called and asked me out. Brad, male 31, is kind and smart and funny, and he made me laugh and paid attention to the smallest things I said. We began dating, and before I knew it, it got serious. We dated for 2 years, and then he proposed. I accepted, and we began planning for the wedding in earnest. I moved in with him soon after he proposed. We were going to get married in my small town, and his family and friends were happy to travel there. Andrea excitedly agreed to be my maid of honor, not that she needed to be asked. Then, COVID hit us in more ways than I could imagine. First, lockdown hit just as we were about to send out the invites. Then, Brad suffered a 40% pay cut at work, followed by his losing his job a few months later. While he moped at home, I tried to keep his spirits up. Work from home took a toll too, as I was asked to join meetings at 9 p.m., create dashboards at a moment's notice, and work on weekends too. Brad and I grew distant. Soon, he began spending more and more time outside, telling me he just had to get out. I was okay with that, believing him when he said he was meeting his buddies. I was promoted late last year, and that meant handling a team. I began spending more and more time at work. Brad finally got a job too, which did wonders for his self-esteem. Fast forward to Sunday night. We were about to go to bed, and his phone rang. He was instantly super twitchy, telling the caller it was late and he would call back the next day. When asked who it was, he said it was someone from work, and that he always calls at this time to discuss work. I knew it was a female voice because Brad kept the volume setting at the highest level. I wanted to say that, but for some reason I did not pursue it. I checked his phone the next morning when he was in the shower and found Andrea's number saved as Bill C, and also a bunch of really racy texts. She sent him nudes and videos too. Their last conversation was what they will do to each other once she was gone. My dad suffered a mild heart attack recently, and I'm flying home this weekend to see him. My heart sank and I began crying. Brad emerged from the bathroom and instantly knew what was happening when he saw his phone in my hand and my face. I confronted him, but he began making pathetic excuses, stating that he felt alone and all you do is work. I called Andrea, who denied everything at first. When I sent her screenshots from my number and demanded an explanation, she confessed to everything. She and Brad were having an affair behind my back for months. It all began when he lost his job, and she was pressuring him to break up with me. He would not do so, so she resorted to spreading rumors about my family to discredit them, and to scare him into thinking that I would make him move back to my town after we were married. This I came to know after a lot of questioning. She also said that she and Brad had gone on a couple of dates before he and I met, and seeing him with me later really angered her. She even tried to get him to date her again after I began going out with him, but he turned her down. Brad's refusal infuriated her, and she hit the gym and began doing yoga with a vengeance to, in her own words, get back at me. I have spent the last day crying, being angry, crying angry tears, and binging on takeout. Brad slipped out of the apartment as soon as he could, and I know that he is at her place right now. She has called to apologize, but I have blocked her number. She then called from his number too, but I cut the call as soon as I heard her voice. My dad called to confirm if I was indeed coming over, and I cried, but I did not tell him anything yet. He thinks I cried out of sheer relief because he is doing better now. I want to break up with Brad and sever all ties with Andrea for good, but first I need to see my dad. I am lost. Should I tell him? I hate myself for not noticing this earlier and that I gave too much of myself to work. Also, Andrea's family and mine have been very close for decades. Andrea's mother and older sister have been nurses for their whole lives, and they work at the hospital where Dad spent some time in the ICU recently. My mom is super grateful to them for all the help and support they gave us, and rightfully so. What should I do? How do I go about doing it? I am lost, angry, and crying. It's comment time! First up, Sir Robert Antonio. Tell your family, break up, don't ever talk to them. Just because your families have interpersonal relationships doesn't mean that you have to accept disrespect. Look at what they did to you. They didn't care about what their affair would do to you. Whatever happens from now on is their fault. They set all of this in motion, so they have to live with their consequences and take responsibility. Next comment comes from Cosmic Diamond 33. Andrea is an absolute piece of scum, and you don't need a disloyal liar like your ex-fiancé either. And absolutely tell your parents. They'll be in your corner, and I hope you tell A's family connections. One's crappy actions should be known, and she deserves bad press for being an absolutely dismal friend and human being. This was so manipulative, deliberate, and hurtful. What a horrible, horrible woman. Usually I'm more angry at the cheating significant other, who also is just awful in this case. But here, Andrea was so calculated in her malice that it just stuns me. You are so strong for being able to kick him out, and you've done the right thing. I'm sorry you're surrounded by these two abhorrent human beings, and I hope that you're able to enjoy time with your dad and mom. Tell them everything and then go back to the city and invest in you and changing your social group. Don't let these awful people in your life ever again. You deserve better. Change your locks too. Do not even entertain the idea of reconciliation. What a calculated, deceitful, and cruel pair. They deserve each other even though they'll never make it. Yikes. Also, don't feel overly indebted to her family that it should in any way justify the evil she perpetuated on you. Her mom's job is to save lives, and that is what she helped with. And it doesn't at all excuse the fact that Andrea must and should be cut out of your life forever. And the work thing on your end? Your significant other should have spoken to you, or had the decency to break up if he wasn't man enough to communicate. It's a cheap excuse for a guy who knows what he did is unforgivable, so he falls back on a flimsy, tired excuse. People have this disconnect in relationships all the time, and they don't betray the person they claim to love, especially not with their closest confidant. Just sickening. And now, time for the update. I'm going to start from the beginning. After I discovered that Brad and Andrea were having an affair, Brad slipped out of the apartment and left for her place. I just sat there, crying and cursing them in my life, and eating a lot of takeouts. I did, however, have the good sense to call a friend, and she showed up with an army. Let's call her Madison. In all, 4 women came over. We sat and talked, and I told them everything. Madison asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to move up my flight so I could go home to my family sooner. They made me go to bed for a few hours while they packed my things for me. I woke up to see all my stuff neatly packed. I sent Brad a message telling him it was over and that I was leaving. I took my luggage and left for Madison's place, where I spent the night. I flew home the next day and was still slightly conflicted as to how to tell my dad everything. Finally, I did so. He listened to me quietly and then spoke in a tone that I heard being used maybe 3 times in my whole life. Usually, soon after that tone is used, someone dies or comes really close. He took his phone and walked out of the house onto the lawn and screamed blue murder at Brad for 20 minutes straight. After a lot of deliberation, it was decided that Andrea's family was to be told everything from my side, and Brad's family too. Nothing would be more public unless it really had to be. I went to church and met Andrea's family, who greeted me warmly. They asked me what I was doing in town and asked if Brad had come along too. It was at this moment I realized that they knew nothing. So we invited them home and I told them everything. They were shocked beyond belief. Andrea's mother, who spent hours at my dad's bedside at the hospital to keep him company because my mother wasn't allowed in the ICU, was devastated and began crying. Her sister was shocked and cried too. She said that Andrea had not called for a week, which was unusual. She then called Andrea right then, who said she was in Tahoe and that she will call in a couple of days. When asked if she had hooked up with Brad, she hung up. Then her mother called her, whereupon she yelled, "Don't believe that effing blank," and hung up. Brad's dad passed away about 2 years ago, so he is not in the picture at all. I called Brad's mother, who did not know either, and she was equally shaken by the news. She kept apologizing on her son's behalf and kept begging me to forgive her and Brad. I said there was no need for me to forgive her, as she had done me no wrong, but there was no way I would forgive Brad. His sister called back and said she was ashamed of him and that she would never speak with him again. I got myself tested, and I am negative for any STIs. In an ironic twist, Andrea's sister was close at hand when I was being tested. My dad and I spoke to a family friend who is a cop, and he said that it is hard to pursue assault charges in such cases as the evidence is circumstantial at best. But a really good lawyer might be able to get the charges to stick. I have yet to decide if I'm going to go the extra mile, though, to get them to face assault charges for what they did. I do plan to tell their company HR everything. Their days at that firm are definitely numbered. This weekend I am moving to my aunt's place, who lives in a town about 60 miles away from my parents' home. There are some therapists there, and I might stay there as long as therapy takes. I will visit my parents on weekends or as often as I can. I have spoken to my boss and my boss's boss too, and they have been very understanding and accommodating. I will live in my home state for a few months at least, and return to the West Coast city where I stayed only after I have gotten over this ordeal. The time difference might make things a bit difficult, but the knowledge that I am far away from them and close to my family is something that will see me through. I am not sure when my next update might appear here, but right now I am still struggling with what transpired in the last week. Indeed, with what happened in the last year or so. By my calculations, Brad began cheating on me with her approximately a year ago, which is absolutely appalling to me. If only he had said it was not working out, or asked me to not take the promotion, or just told me that I spent too much time at work. Would things have been different then? He was such a funny, smart, and kind guy when we met, and stayed that way pretty much till he lost his job. And Andrea? The less said, the better. I feel nothing but hatred for her now. Again, thank you so much for everything. A lot of you have expressed anger and outrage at how I was treated, and I respect that. I know I am in your thoughts and prayers and good wishes, and I have no doubt that I will bounce back from this. Right now, I am a work in progress, and I intend to keep working on myself. Wishing you all love and health and peace and prosperity. Couple of quick comments before we move on to the next story. Beans Inside says, I definitely think you shouldn't file a case on them unless you have a ton of savings for the lawyers you get. That kind of thing can drag on for months. I say let their HR know and wash your hands of them. Stay strong, you're doing so well. Emily Ratatouille says, thank you for the update. Your story was definitely very hard and shocking for me to read. I am happy to know that you are in safe hands and have the support system you need. You made the right decision by going back to your hometown and getting the professional help you need to bounce back, which you will. Good luck, OP. Next story's title, Wife cheated on me for her physical and emotional requirements. Now she's blaming that I am responsible for her act. Myself, B, 31 male, and my soon-to-be ex-wife, L, 30 female, have been married for the last 3 years. 11 years of my life I gave to her. I had worked and studied my butt off to give her the life she wanted. Sure, we had rough patches, but what marriage or relationship didn't? My hands are trembling and I feel like crying while posting this, but I am helpless. We both are from eastern part of India. First time I had met my soon-to-be ex-wife while I was preparing for my pre-medical entrance exam in 2009 at a coaching institute. We both got selected in the same medical school. In 2010, before I asked for her, she was drooling for one of my colleagues. I proposed to her, and she finally said yes in the first year of undergraduate medical school in 2010. We have been college sweethearts since then. We have spent a lot of quality time with each other during medical school. We had an intimate physical relationship during my undergraduate medical school days. Once, she even got pregnant by me in 2016 during our internship days and had an abortion. I had accepted my mistake at that time and supported her emotionally and mentally. We both graduated from medical school in 2016. We had prepared for the postgraduate master's examination together at her residence. I got my preferred branch in northeastern part of India, and she got her branch in my home state. We both married each other in February of 2019. Then I resumed my residency at my workplace, and she joined at her place. It's a long-distance marriage from the beginning. After marriage, she came to visit me in the last week of March of 2019. We had a very good time with each other during those days. I had never in the last 11 years had any reasons to worry or not trust her. She had her friends, I had mine, and we had mutual friends. It was around 2019 December last week that I noticed something odd. I had visited her at my home at that time. She started getting noticeably distant from me. The usual hugs and kisses she would give me come to a halt. Her phone was attached to her long before my suspicion grew. During that time, I had a severe quarrel with her, and a seed of suspicion was planted in my head. I was busy like hell during my residency in 2018 and 2019. In spite of that, every night, I used to ring her, and she says she was also busy with her duties. I never had the slightest suspicion on her, but I was completely wrong. I had a few mutual friends and well-wishers at her medical school. During October of 2020, I got information that she was engaged in a full-blown affair with one of her seniors. On that day, I didn't fully trust that information. I had silently prayed to God that all this information should be false. But that was my D-Day. Then I was in detective mode. After December of 2019, we have met only 5 to 6 times as there was complete lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic. I had asked her many times, directly and indirectly, what's going on with her and how's her life. She always told me that she is happy with me and lucky enough to get me in her life. But it's a pure lie. I didn't have sufficient evidence to confront her directly. In the meantime, we had completed our postgraduate studies, and on the 23rd of June 2021, I confronted her directly. Finally, she admitted her fault that she had an affair with her senior. She also said that she had ended the affair on June of 2020, but when I again checked her call log, she was constantly in touch with him until March of 2021. She had cheated on me mentally, physically, and emotionally. She had multiple intercourse with her affair partner. But now she is blaming me that I am responsible for her extramarital affair. I did not give her emotional support, so she has no other option than to sleep with another guy. Whenever I talk to her, she tries her best to gaslight me. Now she is arguing with me that I only have married her for sex. She had told some of our mutual friends that our marriage was a forced marriage. Then I had scolded her father and had used very bad words against her family. When I confronted her father with the news, her father's first response was, "Don't you know what's the physical requirement of my daughter?" Her family culture is like this only. Even once, she had compared my penis length with her affair partner. It's already been 60 days since that event. Let's get some reaction, shall we? TA 1225-2020 says, "Have you filed for divorce? Adultery is ground for divorce with zero alimony. Get proof. Even recorded telephone conversations should work. You should have gotten this before blowing up everything. An admission of no dowry or violence. Meet up with a lawyer. It is very common for the wives to file a dowry case against the guy and his parents or family as a pressure tactic. Don't, repeat, don't confront your wayward spouse or the wayward spouse family again without getting your ducks in a row. Meet up with a lawyer and sorrowful phone call being duly recorded of why you didn't F the guy and a response from wayward spouse, no dowry confession, etc. The normal tactic would be to file for D after this voice recording on grounds of cruelty, adultery. Most of the time, the wayward spouse will settle for a consent decree, which will be faster than this filing. The affair partner also needs to be served, so it will be a real crap show for the wayward spouse. One more comment from NAF ISA. "Oh wow, dude, she is a douchebag. Hope you are better now. Maybe consider taking therapy? And some families are just trash. Since I'm also from Indian culture, I can completely understand all your perspectives. Even the dad's comment is just, I have no words. All you can do is now focus on yourself and create a thick skin. Do not let her words get to you. File for divorce ASAP. She's going to cheat her whole life and keep blaming you for everything.